Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at a band called Separatist. Never heard of them before, so obviously I had to do a little bit of research on them, and I actually found a fair bit, so it can get a little bit confusing. But Separatist began in 2003 in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. As a full band, it consisted of Sam Dishington on vocals, James Brady, Dave Gilbert and Mitch Golding on guitars, Luke Ranson on bass and Mike Carter on the drums. The band released a full-length album in 2008 titled The Motionless Apocalypse. In April 2011, the band split up. They disbanded because they lost what would have been their entire second album due to a computer malfunction. At which point Dishington left the band and the entire band separated shortly after that. However, in 2014, Dishington took up the mantle of Separatist as a solo project, with him recording all of the vocals, bass, guitar and programming all of the drums. After he took control of the project, he released a double album under the titles Closure and Motionless. The album's profits were donated to the A21 campaign, which was a campaign to support the war against human trafficking. The songs were all original compositions from the original second album, so he basically re-recorded the second album. And he is currently also working in a band called Depart, with a former member of the band, which is now signed to Seasons of Mist label. And from what I understand, they are actually a Christian metal band. But there's no actual explanation as to what kind of metal they are, so that's going to be interesting to find out. Now, the song itself isn't particularly very long, it's under 4 minutes. I have the lyrics here. We're looking at a track called Isolation, and there aren't actually very many lyrics either. So we'll see what we get. And yeah, so we'll jump to it. So we're going to look at Isolation by Separatist. Right. There you go. That was Isolation by Separatist. Now, I'll be honest, not a fan, not a big fan. I'm generally don't enjoy music like that because it sounds messy. You know, there doesn't seem to be any specific rhythm to the music. It's just a lot. It just sounds like noise to me. You know, I know it's a common thing that people who don't understand metal say about metal, but that to me is just a lot of noise because everything is so disjointed. You know, the guitars, you know, it's just someone fret wanking and all of that, and it's just it just doesn't work for me. You know, and the vocal style, there was at least 3 different vocal styles in there, but the main vocal style that existed is what I call the blocked garbage disposal, because, you know, even with the lyrics up there, I couldn't actually figure out what you were saying. So, you know, not my biggest, not the biggest fan, and definitely not the sort of sound I expected from a Christian metal band at that. However, though, the actual meaning to the song itself is quite a good one. And it seems to be talking about, you know, the way that we take the world for granted, that we're using up all the resources, and sooner or later, you know, the rich prey upon the poor, and sooner or later, you know, we're going to use up all the resources, such as food, etc., and we're just going to start turning on each other and eating each other, in a manner of speaking. So, the actual lyrics go: confined within this desiccant husk, this godforsaken artifact of what once stood, a suture of isolation and absence, we have become the thrall of famine and drought. The earth that we once enslaved has fallen, consumed by our own insatiable starvation. Our focus shifts to ingest the weak and inanimate. Those who cannot resist, we turn to our own fragile veins, drinking deep the arterial libation, dissecting the lesser among us. Spanning beyond this infinite horizon, sustenance lies in deficit. Excise the feast locked within the flesh, death of the weak to feed the strong. We are the scavengers of our own mortality. Isolation. Flocking like vultures to feed on our own skin, where sustenance lies in deficit, we have become the thrall of absence. So, you know, they're basically saying, you know, where he's gone, we have become the thrall of famine and drought. You know, we've fallen victim to famine and drought, but the thing is, we've created that ourselves. You know, by over farming, by not taking care of the world around us, as it were. You know, lakes are drying up because of like greenhouse effects and stuff like that, and you know, this is all our own doing. And the earth that we once enslaved has fallen, consumed by our own insatiable starvation. So, you know, the earth as it was, it's falling apart. It's diseased, it's decaying, and because of ourselves, and it's because of our own. Well, they say insatiable starvation, but it's because of our own greed. You know, we want more. You know, we want more food. You know, we kill almost any living animal just so we can eat. We create genetically modified crops. We dig up everything that we can so we can eat it just to feed ourselves, you know, rather than taking care of the actual planet around us. And then it says our focus shifts to ingest the weak and the inanimate. So that's basically like turning on the weak of the species, as it were, you know, the animals that can't fight back, or, you know, stuff like that. We turn to those when we run out of everything else, and eventually we're going to end up turning on each other. There was a... where is it? Excise the feast locked within the flesh, death of the weak to feed the strong. We are the scavengers of our own mortality. So that's like turning around, and sooner or later we're going to, you know, we're going to use up all the resources on this planet, and we're going to start killing and eating each other, because there'll be nothing left for us other than humanity. So, you know, sooner or later we're going to start picking off the the weaker of the species and killing them to eat them, and then when's that going to end? You know, once the weak have disappeared, then, you know, we're going to end up just destroying ourselves, which is basically seems to be what they're talking about. So, you know, it's got quite a good and interesting meaning to the song, but like I said, not actually a big fan of the style. It's just too messy for my liking. It's all over the place. You know, I'm always impressed by people who manage to do this vocal style, because, you know, despite what it sounds like, it does take a lot of skill. But I just don't like, you know, I like it when I can understand the lyrics of a song. You know, whether they're like in a different language or whatever, I just like to be able to actually hear the defined words. This was just a load of gobbledygook, you know. Reading the words and listening to the music, I couldn't actually discern what line was being said half the time, because it was just such a mess of sound, you know. But, you know, that's just my personal opinion, you know. I personally didn't enjoy it very much. But, again, I can't say that I hate, or that I dislike the band in general, because some of their other tracks might be a lot more coherent. They might be more, you know, I might be able to understand them a bit better, but this track didn't work for me. So, you know, I might have to revisit them, see if, you know, some of their other tracks are different, because I never like to judge a band entirely just by one example of their work. But this track, for myself, didn't really enjoy it too much. But there you go. That's just my opinion. I can't think of much else to say about that, so I'll leave that as it is. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel and help me create future content. There is also an option in there where you can get your suggestion jump to the front of the queue, should you so desire. There are a couple of limitations on that, in order to be fair to other people who suggest tracks for me through Facebook and like YouTube and Instagram comments. And those who do suggest tracks through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube comments do know it might take me a while to get around to your suggestions, since I get suggested so many tracks every single day that you know, I can't keep up with it. My list grows so fast I can't record them at the same volume that I'm getting suggested them. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it will get done eventually. It's just going to take me a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those aimed towards people of the alternative culture. And it's something I believe in very, very strongly. Something I think definitely needs a lot more attention bringing to it. Something that definitely needs talking about a lot more. And it's something that I've had to deal with for most of my life. It's something that many of my friends and family have had to deal with. And, you know, because all around the world, every single day, people are getting violently attacked, brutally assaulted, sometimes hospitalised, just because they listen to alternative music. You know, people are getting like bones broken. Some are getting intrusive injuries like stab wounds and stuff like that, just because of their taste in music, and it makes absolutely no sense. You know, why would you attack someone because of their taste in music? You know, you don't attack someone because they like different movies or TV shows to you. So why, you know, why music? Why is that a trigger point that makes people want to attack you? It's ridiculous and it makes no sense. But the thing is, this happens all the time, and it goes largely unspoken about, and that needs to change. Because, like, you hear on a daily basis, you hear of all these other hate crimes, sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism. We hear about these things every single day. From the most heinous and violent of crimes where someone gets murdered, down to the most petty of these crimes where entitled Karen calls the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. God forbid. You know, we hear every colour of the spectrum of these hate crimes every single day. But we never hear about these people that get violently attacked because of their taste in music. And people have told me that it doesn't qualify as a hate crime. It does. It is the very definition of a hate crime. If you attack someone because you hate something about that person, whether it be the colour of their skin, their sexual preference, their sexual identity, whatever, even their taste in music. If you hate something about someone and you attack them because of it, that is a hate crime. And attacking someone because of their taste in music is a hate crime. End of story. That is it. And it never gets spoken about. And the last time this was spoken about widely was 12 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were minding their own business, walking home, and they were violently attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people. Violently attacked, brutally beaten, kicked, punched, had their heads stamped on, so violently that they both ended up in a coma. Now, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived. He was in a coma for about a week or so, I can't remember exactly how long. But Sophie Lancaster was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries. She was murdered because of her taste in music. You know. And that's just ridiculous, you know, a group of 5 or 6 people attacking 2 people around about the age of 20, I think they were at the time, 2021, you know, brutally beaten, violently attacking this girl and her boyfriend for no other reason than her taste in music. And this was 12 years ago that this happened, and it was all over the news at the time. But we've not heard anything about any such attacks since then. But I guarantee you, in the 12 years since that happened, hundreds, if not thousands, of people of the alternative community have been violently attacked in a similar fashion. But we've not heard anything about it, and the reason for that is because nobody died. And that's just disgusting and sickening. It shouldn't take someone's death for a topic like this to be spoken about. You know, we shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before doing something about this. You know, because, you know, putting someone in hospital because of their taste in music, something needs to be done about that. You know, beating someone to within an inch of their life just because of their taste in music, it's unacceptable. You know, and it needs to stop. We cannot allow it to go on. You know, and the people that are committing these crimes are essentially just getting away with it because nothing is getting done to punish them. You know, because no one speaks about it, nothing gets done, and that needs to change. And this is what Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want more people to talk about this. They want more people to realise that this is happening and that it needs to stop, because we can't allow what happened to Sophie Lancaster to happen ever again. It should never have happened in the first place. You know, excuse me, they don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks. No one should ever have to see that. It should never ever happen. It's disgusting that it happens and just doesn't get spoken about. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any way, obviously you don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any way, like a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands off their web store, you know, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we get more people talking about it, the sooner we can get more done to stop it, and the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.